Comic Schtick Podcast, the podcast where comics are my shtick. My name is Blake Wild, and I am your host. You may also know me as Smokey's Videos. Today's episode is brought to you by Destructo Boy, number 1, The Era of Alpha Cardinal, part 1 of 2. This is the very first issue in a 5-issue miniseries all about Destructo Boy himself. And it is now finally in print and on sale. I've been talking about it a lot for the past couple weeks, but I finally have gotten all the copies, all 100 of them. That's how many is in this print run, and it is on sale now at etsy.com/shop/Blake T. Wild. You'll see it on the screen. It'll show up. It'll also be in the description of all my videos and on my link tree. This is a about 23-page story, front and back. Here you go. It is about Destructo Boy going up against the evil, mysterious Alpha Cardinal, who has made an emergence onto the giant space station called Zephyrus. And it is about their encounters and what'll happen. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you should go read it and find out. On Etsy, I do have both physical and digital. So if physical is too much for you to pay, if you don't live in America or something, the shipping costs will be exorbitant. I do have digital available if you are interested in checking this out. Yes, here's just do a little flip through as well as I can. Here are the pages for Destructo Boy, Era of Alpha Cardinal. I'm very excited about this. I am almost done with the 4th issue at this time, and I plan on releasing all of them. Hopefully everybody enjoys them. Hopefully you're able to get your hands on it, because I don't know what the printing is going to be like after I get done with these issues. I might, if it's popular enough, I might put it all together into like a trade paperback sort of collection book, and I'll include the original Destructo Boy in there and some other like supplementary materials like behind the scenes, how I made it, progress stuff, things like that. But for the time being, Destructo Boy, number 1, The Era of Alpha Cardinal, part 1 of 2 is on sale. Part 2 of 2 will come out in maybe about a month or two. I'm not too sure at this time what the release schedule is going to look like. I kind of want to see how well this one starts selling before I really make some progress on there. So definitely check that out. Etsy.com/shop/Blake T. Wild. Capitalize the B, the T, and the W. So yeah, now that I got that done, today's episode, I will be talking about some comic books and mostly some shows, mostly film-related stuff. Let's get right into it with World's Finest number 1 by Mark Waid. And I can't remember the artist's name. I'm blanking completely on what that guy's name is. World's Finest number 1 is fantastic. I always love Mark Waid. I don't really get what people's issue with him is. I think he's a great writer. It's a really fun story. It's pretty simple in terms of what happens. Superman gets injected with a cocktail of various red kryptonites, which red kryptonites have traditionally just unexplainable side effects. They'll do anything to him. So, who is it? I think it's Metallo. He injects Superman with it, and Superman's just freaking out. He's having all this shit happen to him. His x-ray vision won't turn off. His body becomes an x-ray version of itself. He's like seeing things. He's tripping mad balls. And all the while, Batman and Robin are trying to help him. And the issue ends with the Doom Patrol showing up, which is incredible. I love seeing the Doom Patrol interact with Superman, which I don't know if that's ever happened. It might have happened once in Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol run after the painting that ate Paris. After the Doom Patrol save the day, the Justice League show up after everything's already been finished, and I think Superman might be there, but not much comes out of that interaction. Definitely check out World's Finest. It's a great series. I'm trying to get my hands on issue 2 and any subsequent issues. I don't know how long this series is. I'm not sure if it's a mini series or It's probably going to be a mini-series, but I would hope it would be an ongoing. That would be fantastic. That'd be something good that DC actually publishes. Instead of that fucking Batman gaming group crossover that they did. Oh my god, I cannot believe that. They're doing the whole round robin bracket thing with all these interesting titles that they could have published instead. But no, they're doing a FaZe Clan crossover with Batman, where the gamers save the day. What the fuck is that? I didn't read it. I saw the infamous panel that's online of Mr. Freeze saying, "Did you really think gamers could stop me, Batman?" Or whatever it is. Oh god, I'll probably cover it on my channel sometime in the future, just because that seems like something I would talk about. But yeah, I love World's Finest. I don't have much to say aside from that. It was a fun book. I really look forward to seeing who the mysterious character is that they were hyping up a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Also, Astro City's coming back, so that's interesting. I wonder how Wade is going to be putting his workloads into each thing. Or I don't know if Astro City's getting a new book. I think it might just be reprints, but there is a new Astro City one-shot that is coming out or has already come out. Anyway, that's all I have to say about World's Finest. Great book. Check it out. Oh, man. Devil's Reign, number 5. I'm a book behind, obviously, because number 6 apparently came out a couple weeks ago, I think. So I'm still waiting to get that in the mail. But, oh, God, I am not enjoying that event at all. Is it an event? Is that what they're calling it now? I'm not enjoying this story. I guess it is an event because they have all the fucking crossovers and shit, and it has the Devil's Reign logo and all the books. But oh god, I did not enjoy this at all. It's just a slog. It's so lame and dumb. I don't get the hype everybody was going for when it came out. I think it was just because it's Chip Zdarsky, and he's a really cool guy from what I've seen online, what I've read about him. He's a great writer, by the way. But this book is just bad. I don't like it. I won't say it's bad. It's not for me. I didn't enjoy it at all. I'm sort of just reading it just to get it done with now, which is what you shouldn't be doing with a book. But I am anyway. I only have a couple notes really on Devil's Reign. Are Butch and Mike Murdoch, are they gay? It kind of seems like they're a couple, but it's not brought up. And, well, you know, obviously, if they are a couple, and that's really nice that they don't bring up the fact that they're gay as, like, defining characteristics. But if they are gay, we really don't see much of their, like, personal lives around that fact. It started out, I was like, okay, they work together, they're like roommates or something, and then it progressively became more and more, oh, they have more feelings for each other than I initially expected. I don't know if this has ever been discussed. I'm sure it has. If anybody knows the answer, please let me know. Spoiler alert, though, Mike Murdoch is dead. The Kingpin killed him. So yeah, that gets rid of that loose end, I guess. And Butch is being the shitty Kingpin for now until Wilson Fisk loses his mayoralship of New York and becomes the Kingpin again, which I bet is going to happen pretty soon. Like I said, I haven't read issue 6, don't know what happens. I think it's just a big fight. Maybe everybody sees Luke Cage fighting bad guys, and they all vote for him. The Purple Kids get captured by the Thunderbolts. Is that the team that they're using? And Purple Man is let loose and he's naked and some reason, and Wilson Fisk is like, kill them all. Yeah, there's an Avengers fight because, like I said, it's like Civil War but small. It's baby Civil War. So the Avengers are fighting Purple Man controlled people, and that's how it ends. There's a cool double-page splash. That's interesting. I didn't like the book. If you can't tell. Even though I already said it multiple times, I didn't like that book. Yeah, that's all I had to say about that. The comic book discussion might be a little short this week, just because I have a lot of movie stuff and show stuff to really talk about. Also, I'm kind of tired, so I don't really know how much I really have to say. on to Nocenti's Daredevil, my favorite Daredevil. So what did I read? So I have about 20 something books left, because I just got done with Daredevil 271, 272, very early 270s is where I'm at now. Her run only goes to like 290 something, or like 291, 292, around there. So I got about 20 books left, I believe. If you hear my dog snoring, just ignore that. He's a sleepy boy. But yeah, so I'm coming to the tail end of Nocenti's Daredevil run, and it has been a hell of a ride. I have enjoyed this reread. Well, a little under half of it was a reread. Everything after this, at this point, is completely new to me. So last time I discussed Nocenti's Daredevil was about the X-Men crossover Inferno event. It was funny. I love reading the old letters pages, especially if I can find a letter from my home state, which I rarely ever do. The one time I did, however, in Daredevil's book, I believe, it was a dude bitching about Nocenti's Daredevil. So yeah, there you go. That's the kind of people from my state. Anyway, I was reading... I read a letter in like an issue a couple weeks ago, and it was saying something like, I can't remember what the letter itself said, but it was talking about the X-Men, or if Daredevil's like a mutant, or if like one of his villains is a mutant, like a Bullet or something. And the editor, whoever writes the letters back, is like, Daredevil is a no mutant book, or something along those lines. Like, we don't have mutants in this book. Mutants are overdone, blah, blah, blah. They're everywhere in the Marvel Universe except your favorite book, Daredevil. The amount of times that mutants have made appearances in Nocenti's Daredevil run is ridiculous. Early on, he fights Sabretooth in the sewers. What else? I think he runs into maybe X-Factor or something, if I remember correctly. I'm vaguely... maybe not, I don't know. There's the Inferno event, which he doesn't meet any mutants in this book, but it is a mutant-led event that he crosses over, ties in with. So yeah, there's the Inferno, and then a couple issues later, I'll discuss this momentarily, but he fights the Blob and Pyro. So there's a lot of mutants in this Daredevil series. So yeah, the Inferno concludes... it ends with like a news reporter on TV is like, and the X-Men came together into the sky, and a bright light shone across the nation, and the portal to hell closed, and that's the end. And it's just like, oh geez, that's how it ends. I've never read X-Men Inferno. I never cared enough. That's the one where Magic gets like put into like a little bikini or something, and she's like a slave. I don't like that. A lot of that Magic stuff makes me uncomfortable just because I love that character, even though I've barely read anything about her. I just really dig it. But yeah, I don't know. Something about that is off-putting to me. I wonder what it could be. But in like the second to last, or the last issue involving the Inferno crossover, there's like 5 of them, there is a just insane dentist monster, and the fucking book is just utter insanity. It's a hellish fever dream, illustrated beautifully by John Romita Jr. It opens up, so if you're unfamiliar, if you didn't listen to the past episode where I was talking about the Inferno crossover or anything, because hell opens up or whatever, or is it limbo, whatever, items start being either possessed or coming to life on their own. I feel like it's more possession more than anything, by like demons or whatever. So like cars are driving over people and there's no driver on the inside. Payphone is locking people in and eating them, stuff like that. But in this book, it opens up with a dentist being attacked by his own tools, and like there's drills going into him, and like scalpels and not scalpels, but like the scraper things, like just it's just mauling him. He's like flung back into the dentist chair, and he's like screaming and writhing in pain as he's just getting mutilated by all of his equipment. And then he stops screaming. And the weirdest thing about this fucking book is that people are simultaneously aware of what's happening and completely oblivious to it. There's like people just like, hey, my bus is late. And they're just standing at the bus stop as like there's fires and people getting killed behind them and like demons running around and shit. And some people just don't make note of it and some do. I don't understand that. I don't know if I would gain an understanding of that if I read the Inferno event. But the doctor walks out and he is just fucking a monster. Like his right arm is been severed at the forearm and he has like this metal hook coming out of it. He's like a cybernetic hell creature. He's a fat guy and his big fat face is like been ripped open. He looks like the Violator from Spawn. He has this giant smile coming out and these razor sharp teeth. His skin's been pulled back, like something's inside of him that's too big. He's just real fucked up, and he just walks out of the dentist's room, and he's just so fucked up, and he walks out of the dentist's office or whatever, and just out of the waiting room, and nobody bats an eye, and then he just goes out into the streets and starts fucking people up. He walks over to these two cops and he starts talking to them and they look up and they see this horrific creature and then he kills the cops and like steals their badge and their hat. And I don't know who this character is. I don't know if it's supposed to be like Mephisto or something, because I forgot to mention Mephisto does make an appearance in the Inferno crossover. He's drinking with Typhoid Mary. They're like drinking wine or champagne or something. But this guy, he's seemingly like a ringleader for the monsters, because he's like, yes, bring violence and chaos and ruin amongst these humans. Let your hate flow. Forget feelings, blah, like, stuff like that. And he's like, I'm Dr. Dentist or something. It's so fucking nuts. And so he's just reigning terror. And meanwhile, Daredevil's like he's fighting demons and shit. And he barely speaks during the whole issue just because he's been so emotionally broken and is just so mentally fatigued. Of course, it ends with Daredevil fights this dentist monster and kills him. Yeah, the dentist guy doesn't come back. He's dead. He died when the machines were mauling him, and his husk of a corpse that was being puppeteered died when Daredevil beat the shit out of him and stopped him. And so after Inferno is... after that concludes, don't forget that Karen has left Matt after the whole Typhoid Mary reveal came about. She's left, packed up her stuff, she's gone. Matt goes to his like free legal counsel establishment that he and Karen set up. It's been burned to the ground and ransacked and just destroyed during like the hellish riots or whatever. He has nothing left, so he is just depressed as shit. And he doesn't even bother taking his Daredevil costume off. He just wears it and he goes to a bar and he's just sitting there at the counter, fucking taking shot after shot and glass after glass of alcohol. And then this woman comes in, or actually it starts as a man and then walks past someone and becomes a woman. That's weird. And it sits down and people glance occasionally and they're like, why the fuck is that guy sitting next to Daredevil? And then somebody else will look and he's like, oh shit, fucking look at that prostitute over there. She's trying to get with Daredevil. Like, these people are seeing whoever this is as different visages of who it actually is. So this person's chanting up Daredevil, and spoiler alert, it's Mephisto. Mephisto is just there to fuck with Daredevil, and like Mephisto's inherent influence in this bar begins corrupting the people in it. And there's these two brothers, what? It's a holiday. It's like Thanksgiving or something is happening, and it's these two brothers. They're like, "Come on, let's get going. Let's leave the bar. Let's head to our parents' house to get have dinner with them." And one of the brothers is like, "Fuck them. You were always their favorite. I was fucking always a disappointment. I don't want to go. I'm having fun with you. And if we go there, they're just gonna make me feel like shit. And I don't want to do that. I want to stay here with you, bro." And so, like, they're just messing around and stuff. And over the course of the book, they get progressively more and more angry at one another until one of the brothers stabs the other one with a broken bottle and kills him. And this whole book takes place in this bar. And it's Mephisto in disguise talking to Matt Murdock, trying to, like, sway him over or whatever. And then, when that happens, when the stabbing happens, everybody's freaking out. But Mephisto leans in as the woman, and Matt Murdock starts making out with her. So Matt Murdock is smacking lips with Mephisto as these two guys are fighting each other to the death. And, like, the crowd runs over, and once the woman, like, backs away and stops kissing Matt, she just disappears. And Matt's, like, looking around like, what the fuck happened? Where is everybody? And somebody's like, Daredevil, what the fuck? You let this guy die. And then Daredevil's like, what? Where am I? What happened? And then he, like, blacks out again, and he wakes up in this, like, abyss, and Mephisto is there. It's just giant head, and he's ridiculing Matt for failing and not being good enough and being a horrible Christian, whatever. And then Matt, he, like, picks him up in his hand, and he drops Matt, and Matt just falls. And then he comes to, falling off of a roof and into a back alley where he, like, lands in some snow. So maybe it was Christmas. And these two, like, homeless people or something help him up, and they're like, holy shit, Daredevil, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he starts limping off. And, yeah, then he, after that weird issue, Matt just leaves New York. He abandons being Daredevil. He packs up his shit and becomes a wayward hero. He, like, goes by train, and it's such a weird issue. He's on this train, and he sees a crashed plane in this field. And so he hops off the train, and because, like, they're in the middle of nowhere and nobody's probably going to be there to help anytime soon. And he pulls this guy out, and the guy's like a drug dealer, and he was flying his drug-filled plane with, like, when he crashed or something. And, like, Matt saved him, so Matt's like, whoa, what the fuck? I feel like I did something wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have. No, I should have saved this man, but I should have arrested him. Stuff like that. He's having, like, some inner turmoil. Matt, then, abandoning the train, has to walk on foot, so it's sort of like the Bill Bixby Hulk show, where he's just traveling from town to town, in, like, the East Coast somewhere. He's probably still, like, in New York somewhere, I'd imagine, or somewhere around nearby states. He comes across this bed and breakfast that is owned by this husband and wife. The husband, I think he, like, lost his job, so he's been getting work with his brother. His brother is, like, I don't want to say bookie, but he has ties to Kingpin's mob, and he's like a loan shark, I think. So the brother is like a loan shark, and the husband, it acts as, like, he's hired to be, like, muscle to, like, go rough people up to get the money that they owe. And the guy doesn't like doing that. He feels shitty about it. He hates the job. He doesn't have the heart for it. Or he has too much heart for it, I should say. Because his brother's a piece of shit. And Daredevil obviously already knew this, because he could hear the husband and wife arguing about it. And so one day he follows the husband out in the middle of the night, and he leads, unknowingly, he leads Daredevil to his brother's, like, warehouse headquarters thing, where the brother tortures a man for money. And Daredevil's just eavesdropping the whole time. And then eventually Daredevil goes there and beats the shit out of the brother when he's alone, and he fucking wraps a rope around his neck and hoists him over like a pipe in this basement, and just fucking starts pulling him up by the neck, hanging him. And then Daredevil stuffs a chair, like a wooden chair, underneath the guy, so he has to stand on his very tips of his toes. And Daredevil just starts repeating what the man was yelling about when he was with his brother, verbatim to the guy. And over the course of this book, we see the husband having nightmares to like his childhood, and like violent nightmares that he's like terrified of. One of them involves his childhood dog, who had to get its leg amputated when the husband was like a boy, and he didn't want it to. He was like, no, I don't want him to lose a leg, blah blah blah. And he keeps thinking about how that the dog's name was like Queenie, and he keeps thinking like, Queenie trusted me, and I let her get her. She had to get her leg cut off. I didn't want that. She didn't want that. I could tell she didn't want it. And after they did the surgery, she never looked at me the same way, and I just feel so terrible about this, that I would do that to her. You know, he's just really fucked up. And his brother's like, what the fuck? Who cares? It's just a... And his brother's like, what the fuck? Who cares? It's just a dog. It doesn't know if it has 3 legs or 4 legs. And so as Daredevil is hoisting that man and stuffs his chair underneath, brings out his baton, and he's like, doesn't matter if it has 3 legs or 4 legs, right? Bam! Knocks out one of the legs of the chair, so it starts wobbling back and forth. And he's like, so, what are you going to do about this guy? And then it cuts, and the wife gets a call from the brother, and he's like, hey, tell Mikey, whatever, that I'm done here. He doesn't have to work for me anymore. I'm done. I'm leaving town. You don't have to worry about me or ever see me again. And then Daredevil leaves town and continues his journey to some new city, new town, where during this time is when the mutant registration thing was going on, that storyline. So, any mutants not getting registered were illegal. There's Freedom Force, which Spiral, Blob, and Pyro are now a part of, and they've been hired by, not hired, they've been sent by the government to find this mutant who is said to have be hiding in this small town. And like they're talking about ooh, this one's mine, Pyro. Like Blob really wants this chick because I guess Pyro, it seems like he rapes them. He rapes these girls that they find, and Blob's like, no, it's my turn. So the whole thing is like them like, I got dibs on her. No, I got dibs on her. Like stuff like that. They're not good people. So they come to this town. They're terrorizing it. Pyro sets their like windmill or water fountain on fire and fucks them up. Or a water tower on fire. Blob is like pushing cars, tipping them over and shit. And so they give the town an ultimatum, which is bring them the mutant girl by sundown, or they'll just destroy everything looking for her. And who should show up in town a little bit after but Daredevil? And he goes into the bar and he's like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is the Blob and Pyro here? And he starts eavesdropping over him, and Blob is making fun of Daredevil for being blind, and he's also like getting handsy with the bartender, and she's just getting like, please don't touch me, stuff like that, and Daredevil just has to sit there and take it. And then Pyro steps away to go to the bathroom, and Daredevil can hear in the back of the bar this townsman. He gives Pyro the location of the girl. She's apparently being held at this local church, and like there's some people there to protect her. So Matt leaves the bar immediately and runs over there as Daredevil to the church. He finds the girl inside being protected by like 3 or 4 guys who have like shotguns and like an automatic rifle or something. Like they're getting ready to like, hold down the fort and make sure nobody takes this girl away. But that they would be a bigger problem than they I don't know where I'm going with this. They would serve as more of a problem if Daredevil went to them face first, because then he'd have to get into a chat with him and convince him he's not bad, and he has to beat Pyro here because he knows Pyro's already on his way to the church. So Daredevil just knocks all these guys out and tells the girl that he's here to take her away because Pyro and Blob are after her. Pyro gets to the church blows the place up. Thankfully, the people inside didn't die. They woke up and escaped just in time. Daredevil and Amanda, the girl, they get blown out, and Daredevil gets knocked on his ass and falls unconscious, and he wakes up a little bit later, and Amanda's gone, and Pyro's gone, and so he dresses down, he puts his suit and shit back on, and he goes back into the bar, and he tells Blob that Pyro is, like, getting off with the girl or something like that. Something to make the Blob jealous and angry. I forgot to mention also that when Daredevil realized that Blob and Pyro are in the bar, he starts paying for their drinks. He's like, oh, a round of shots for these two guys on me. You know, to get him drunk enough to the point where he could take him in a fight. Because if they weren't drunk, then, you know, their powers would be a lot harder to face, especially for Daredevil, a fairly normal person. So Blob is very drunk at this point, and he's trying to fondle the bartender, and he grabs her, and he's, like, trying to kiss her like Jabba the Hutt. And all the townsfolk, like, they're like, hey, put her down, you fucker! And they, like, draw up their guns and shoot him. And the bullets just absorb into his fat and then pop out. But yeah, then Daredevil or Matt Murdock tells him that Pyro has the girl, and like Matt Murdock's like, yeah, I saw Pyro with that girl laughing about you, and like they're kissing and whatever. And Blob gets jealous, runs out, and just attacks Pyro. And he fucks up the whole thing. Blob fucks it all up. Amanda's able to escape thanks to Daredevil. Blob and Pyro fight each other. And then Daredevil like finishes them off, and then Spiral shows up, and she's like, "Oh, you fucking idiots! God damn it! Why did I trust you on this?" And they all teleport away. And then the book epilogues with a scene of Amanda standing along like the highway leading into town. She has like some bags with her, so she's either trying to hitchhike or she's waiting on a ride or something. And she's like, geez, I can't believe Daredevil, like, actually saved me. That's weird. I thought Daredevil was, like, a New York thing. Like, why is he all the way out here? I don't know. I wonder if I'll ever see him again. And then from the background behind her, you see a blind man walking down the road out of town, and he turns and starts walking away down the highway some more. So, you know, it's basically the Bill Bixby Hulk show. And the final point I want to talk about with Ann Nocenti's Daredevil is the introduction of Blackheart, Mephisto's creepy son. I don't know much about Blackheart aside from, you know, what I've read here and what I vaguely know about him. I know, like, in the 90s, I think, he took over a town or something, and Ghost Rider fought him alongside Wolverine and Punisher, something along those lines. I know he has a Marvel Legends action figure, but other than that, I don't know much about Blackheart, aside, you know, he's Mephisto's kid. But I have finally learned his origin, and that is that there's a town called Crown, or I don't remember what the town's called, but there's a hill outside of this town called Christ's Crown. And Christ's Crown is called so because it is this big hill, and surrounding near the base is a ring of rose bushes. So it's all thorny, like Jesus' thorn crown. So they call it Christ's Crown. Christ's Crown has a terrible history of violence happening in it. It is just a magnet for the depraved and the violent and the psychopathic. People say it began when this woman in like the 1800s or something was like beaten and raped and left for dead out in this hill, and she had like a big wound, and so her blood just pooled out and seeped into the dirt and the earth, and after that the blight just never left. So hundreds of years later, we're at Christ's Crown, and these two teenagers, obviously, it's this boy and this girl who they like, I don't think they just met, but they sort of like, it's like early on in their relationship, I guess, or like maybe they're friends or something. But anyway, they're out in the woods hiking, and the boy's like, hey, let's go up to Christ's Crown. It has a great view of whatever. And the girl's like, oh, no, there's all the stories about this. I don't want to do that. It's creepy. And also, we're going to have to climb through goddamn rose bushes. I don't want to get cut. And the guy's like, come on, it'll be fun. Trust me. And so they make their way up there, and they crawl through the rose bushes, fairly unscathed. And she's like, okay, well, what the fuck are we going to do now? And he's like, oh, man, check it out. It's so quiet back here. And then he grabs her and fucking starts kissing her. And she's like, what? Stop. Get off of me. Stop. I don't like you or know you enough to do this. Like, get away from me. He starts raping this girl. He's gonna rape her. If not for the fact that the ground opens up at the crest of the hill and, like, light shines out of it. This ill, long-forgotten light. And out emerges Blackheart, this vile, mouthless, emotionless creature. And it stops and it stares at them. And the fucking descriptions are so great. It's like it's twisted, knotted body, muscles. What is it? Fuck, I fucked it up. It's a fantastic prose, but Nocenti describes Blackheart as being twisted and naughty, twisted, god damn it, twisted and knotted, like, you know, it's like a plant almost. It has a body like that, and its muscles, every piece of movement causes constant pain whenever it moves. It has sleepless eyes of red, and my favorite part is that Blackheart has the stench of burnt ink and sweet roses, which is such an incredible description of this otherworldly being that isn't alive, and no one really knows what it is or how it got there. It's just like, what does burnt ink even smell like? Like, how do you know that? God damn, like, that must be pretty goddamn bad if it's burnt ink and roses. Like, it's just the sweet and the disgusting of that combination is like, oh, people smell it and just immediately get sick to their stomachs, and they feel uneasy whenever they smell it. You know, it's just a great description of Blackheart. And Blackheart it's not alive. It's not a living being. It has, like, the reason I never really understood why Blackheart looked like it did, but it looks like that because it comes from the Christ's Crown Hill, which is surrounded by the thorny rose bushes, which, in every winter or something, are going to die out and just become black husks of thorns. And so Blackheart is just, like, sharp, and it has the weird tendril hair that John Romita Jr. gives Mephisto. I really like John Romita Jr.'s rendition of Mephisto. I have no idea how to describe it, because it doesn't look like a devil man like Mephisto often does. It doesn't look like a weird, like, snake, I guess. Yeah, maybe snake might be the best. No, because it doesn't look that much like... It looks like a cone with a mouth cut out into it. It doesn't... Also, Mephisto doesn't look like it does in the Christopher Priest Black Panther issue, but it's sort of similar to that. It's just an off-putting design that I love. But, yeah, Blackheart shows up, and the two people freeze, and the narration is like... the girl recognizes what this creature is immediately. The boy doesn't. The boy can only think about how he's gonna get away from this. Like, maybe he'll push the girl down to keep the monster occupied or something. And then Blackheart just bams some, like, nether energy on him and kills him. It just murders both of these people. And then Mephisto shows up and he's like, oh, come on, is that the best you can do? Get creative with it, son. What are you doing? And so he sets Blackheart out on the world, not before molding Blackheart into something more human resembling. So, like, he looks like a human with, like, eye paint, like big, like, raccoon eye mascara on, no pupils, and, like, spiky hair. and he's like, it sort of seems like it's like from It. If you ever read It, you'll know that the reason that the Pennywise creature scares children so much is because it sort of like sweetens the meat. And Mephisto sort of implies that the very less creative ways that you kill people, like bam, well, you're not going to get much energy and whatever from that. But if you really put the theatrics into it, then that'll sweeten the load or something. Also, Mephisto warns him, or it, not to be seen in its true form, because that will lessen its power, which is just a great thing. I really like that, because it sort of comes from the basic horror storytelling, which is, less is more. The creature that the audience doesn't see and is left entirely to the mind's interpretation is always going to far exceed and frighten any expectations or thoughts of what the actual thing is. Blackheart is creepy and it's scary, and I would freak the fuck out if I saw it as I was walking around at night, walking my dog late one night, and I glance over and I see Blackheart just standing at the mouth of an alleyway or something looking at me. I'd freak the fuck out. But once it starts coming after you, it just becomes this big black scary monster that has no mouth and glowing red eyes. Still scary, but not that mysterious scary that it was when it's like a shadow in the corner of your eye or whatever. So that's an interesting rule that's applied to this magical, mythical, hellish entity. So Blackheart goes to a theme park where Daredevil, it's an abandoned theme park. Daredevil is training himself on all the empty machines, and he's running and doing flips and shit on this roller coaster, and then Blackheart shows up and they fight, and Blackheart starts blowing shit up and starts flaming, sets the roller coaster ablaze. And who should be driving by on a Greyhound bus but Peter Parker? And Peter somehow convinces the bus driver to stop the bus so he can get out and become Spider-Man. So Spider-Man and Daredevil are fighting this demon at a abandoned theme park in the middle of nowhere. And so they're fighting, and people from the town are seeing smoke rising up in the distance, so they all start going there, and they're standing at the entranceway as Daredevil and Spider-Man keep fighting Blackheart, and they're like, we gotta get Blackheart away from the crowd. But as they're fighting him, or it, they're like, why is it seems like it's getting weaker. Does it seem like it's weakening to you? And Daredevil's like, yeah, it does. Blackheart glances over and sees this giant crowd of people staring at it, and Blackheart's in its true form. So, it's fucking up with its power and abilities. So it realizes this and is just like, oh fuck, I'm out of here. And it disappears. My favorite part is that Blackheart doesn't speak at all. That just adds to the... Well, obviously it's unhuman, but it's even more unhuman than Mephisto. Because Mephisto, for the most part, typically, like I said, is just like a red devil man with pointy ears and pupilless, irisless eyes. And a big spiky hair like Phil Spector. John Romita Jr.'s John Romita Jr.'s Mephisto is this otherworldly being that has a shape similar to a human in the body, but not really, just enough to where it's off, and its head looks nothing like a person. It has these weird tendrils going off of his body that look like little tubes, kind of hair. I don't know if when I look at it, I don't think hair. I think it's like that. I don't remember what this toy is called. It's a child's toy. It's the thing where it has the little pins coming out on one side. They're made of plastic, and you can press your hand down, and the indentation will cause the pins to come out on one side, so you can you can leave the impression on there. Mephisto's hair stuff, it looks like those pins. I feel like if I ran my hand down across it, it would feel hard and sort of plasticky and like unnatural. And it doesn't just stop at his head. It goes all the way down his back, and it's like all on his back body, like he's a fucking sea star or something, or like a sponge. But yeah, Blackheart has that shit as well, and it's just such an off-putting character. And I really like Blackheart. I made fun of it when I first started reading this series in this, when I first brought up Blackheart in like episode 1 or 2 or something, I made fun of him just because it seemed like a dumb idea. But I really like this Blackheart original appearance. I doubt he ever stays the same after this, or it. I don't know what you would describe Blackheart as. Doesn't have a dick, doesn't even have a mouth, but he talks later in its history. So I feel like if I continue reading things with Blackheart, I'll just be disappointed. But yeah, it was just such a great issue. The theme park fight gets a little weird, especially because Spider-Man's there for some reason. Like, such a circuitous way to get Spider-Man in the story. Like, what do? Daredevil isn't in New York. We want to introduce this new character. How do we get people interested into a new character? Because some people were annoyed that Anne kept adding new characters, like that guy from Arizona. So what if we get Spider-Man there? And Anne's like, I just told you Daredevil isn't in New York. I'm doing this whole thing where he's traveling around, and then the guy's like, yeah, whatever, Anne. How do we do this? What if Spider-Man's on a bus? Coming from some photo shoot or like speech or performance he gave as Peter Parker or something. It's such an odd way to get Spider-Man into the stories that he's just riding on a bus and happens to see smoke in the distance. Yeah, that's my update on Ann Nocenti's Daredevil. Join me next week for more. On to some DC cinematic expanded universe news. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that Warner Brothers DC is working on a Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, which I kind of thought they were doing with The Flash. I thought they were combining Crisis with Flashpoint and sort of doing that, but I guess not. There's also the fact that Ezra Miller was arrested in Hawaii, and Flash was delayed to 2023. Maybe. What if Flash, the Flash movie, just never comes out? What if they just cannibalize the footage into their Crisis on Infinite Earths movie? And also, a lot of stuff, I didn't see people saying this about Ezra Miller when it was coming around that he was arrested after having the police called on him about 10 or 12 times in the past 3 weeks, is that nobody ever said the full quote of what he screamed at those people when he broke into their bathroom and threatened them. The full quote is, "I'll kill you and your slut wife if you don't go see The Flash in 2023. That's what he said, guys. It's not that bad. He was just promoting the movie. It's guerrilla tactics. But yeah, God, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with Ezra Miller. Especially because in the Flash movie, there's not going to be one Ezra Miller. There's going to be two Ezra Millers. There's two different versions of Flash in that movie. And then there's Superwoman or Supergirl, or whoever she ends up being. There's two Batmen. There's whatever the fuck else they're doing with that movie. Also, why are they, God almighty, why are they wanting to do Crisis on Infinite Earths? What are you going to do there? You're going to bring back, you're definitely not going to get George Clooney unless it's a lot of money. Like, who are you going to do? You only have so many movies and shows to go off of, and over half of them are Batman. So, like, are they just, in that Crisis movie, I guess they're just going to make stuff specifically for that film, like other universes and shit, specifically for that movie, unless they want to start incorporating some, like, CW and HBO Max shows on there. But, like, what are they doing? People have... Online, there's been chatter for years that Marvel's big plan in, like, 10 or 15 years or something is to do Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, which is when the Marvel Universe got quote-unquote rebooted. It was when all these Earths were converging and smashing into one another, and the final two Earths were the mainstream Marvel Universe and Earth 1610, which is the Ultimate Universe. And it was just Marvel's way of taking everything people liked from the Ultimate Universe, so Spider-Man, and putting it into the main universe. But I don't know, I still see people say this, like, oh yeah, Marvel's definitely building up to the Secret Wars, because eventually the characters are going to get too old, they're going to want to try and reboot it, and they're going to do it that way. And that would be a great way. They could probably do a 2 or maybe 3-parter film if that's how they want to do it. Shit, they could do Secret Wars Part 1. They could just do it like Endgame. They could do Secret Wars Part 1, have a couple films come out in between there, like maybe like a year or two in between Part 1 and Part 2, if that, maybe a little more. Have films come out in between that, the Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2, that are about the battle world. If you don't know what this is, Secret Wars, like I said, everything got destroyed. Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange were like the only ones who could stop it. Doctor Doom took all this power and created this new world that's like a patchwork world of all these different universes, and they're all separated by these giant walls, and Doctor Doom is a god, and he lives in like a giant like Yggdrasil world tree with Doctor Strange. And of course, in this new world, Doctor Doom is married to Sue Storm, and their kids are there. And like the Thor Corps is like the peacekeeping force around the Earth. So yeah, that's what that is. Like they could release the Secret Wars movie, then they could make movies set in different parts of that universe, like they did when Secret Wars came out. They had the tie-in issues. They had like the Hulk one. They had the Ultron versus Zombies. They had that X-Men universe where Charles died and Magneto took over the X-Men, and it's like based off of Grant Morrison's New X-Men, which is a really fun book. They could do a bunch of stuff with that. And that I feel like would be okay, because they built up to it so much. Goddamn DC over here is trying to do Crisis on Infinite Earths when they have like 6 movies and maybe 3 of them are good. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I feel like I got that out of my system. Just, what are they doing? What are they doing? Alright, let's move on to Moon Knight. I realized on my way home today, as I was preparing to do this episode, that I am going to constantly be a week behind Moon Knight, because I record this podcast every Tuesday and I release it on every Friday. So I'm just going to be behind. This week is going to be about episode 1, next week is going to be about episode 2, even though episode 3 is going to be out next week, you know. But yeah, I'll just briefly talk about Moon Knight. I don't know how long this will last. It is amazing. I loved it. It's really fun. It's great. It's a nice introduction to this character in the MCU. I'm glad that it's not an origin story, that he's been operating for quite some time, seemingly. Steven's differences from the comics, I still don't like. Doesn't sit quite right with me, but it makes sense, I guess, why they changed it. It also makes sense why they would make Stephen Grant the ride-along character, because more or less, Stephen Grant is probably the most normal of Mark Spector's personalities. Mark Spector is a fucking mercenary who is imbued with the energy and life force of a god, who may or may not be a god. Jake Lockley is a rough and tumble New York City cab driver, and there's Moon Knight, so obviously that's another thing, and Mr. Knight, so that's another thing that you really don't want as your primary person. So, you know, Stephen Grant, he's just like a rich guy with like a hot girlfriend. So it makes sense why they would make Stephen Grant the ride-along character. I hope Marlene is in this show. Stephen's phone said like Layla or something like that, or Mark's phone. I'm not sure who that would be. At first it was like, oh, he's been calling Lila Cheney from the X-Men. Yeah, I don't know. I hope Marlene shows up. I hope Frenchie shows up. That's not. Is that his name? Is that what they call him? It's been a while since I've read Moon Knight. Um, Ducamp. He's in Mark's phone, so he's been calling him up. Yeah, it is Frenchie. Um, there is possible spoilers. There is a rumor for the post-credit scene of the final episode. It's nothing big or anything, but I saw on my favorite subreddit, the Marvel Studios spoilers sub, that people are saying that there's a rumor that Jake Lockley will be the post-credits appearance in episode 6. I really hope not, because that's going to be a disappointment. I don't want that. I don't want that. Unless it could be a setup for season 2, because Oscar Isaac recently came out and was like, yeah, no, we're doing season at a time here, people. I only signed on for 1 season. If this works out well, I'll come back, I guess. So seemingly most of this is going to take place in Europe or probably outside of America, and for the most part. So maybe like Moon Knight season 2, if this first season does end with Jake Lockley, the taxi driver, I really hope he has a fake mustache. I hope Oscar Isaac puts on a fake mustache and like one of those driver's caps and sets off on the town. Even though I'm pretty sure Jake Lockley doesn't have a mustache, I just sort of equate a mustache to his face for some reason. It might be because I'm thinking of Matches Malone from DC. Anyway, I digress. That would be a pretty interesting way to set up the fact that Moon Knight is back in New York and will be operating out of there. But I really do like that he isn't in America. That's really cool, because what have we seen outside of America from the MCU recently? Shang-Chi, we saw that. That was in fucking like most of that movie was not in America. Eternals, that was a lot. I don't know where that was. It was all around the world. What else is there? Is that it? Because the only other thing I could think of was like Avengers: Age of Ultron. They go to Korea or South Korea, and Africa. What else? Thor is in England, but that's fucking really old. That's almost 10 years old. Oh my god, Thor: The Dark World is going to be 10 years old next year. Holy shit. Yeah, because all the Marvel shows that have been coming out, Loki doesn't count. It's all been taking place in America. Oh, no, because Falcon and Winter Soldier happens. There's a lot of Europe stuff in there. But it's cool. It's cool to see more of the world of the MCU. I like that. I like that we're getting outside of America for once. For once, I say. Even though I just listed multiple times where they did it. I really like the werewolf jackal fight. I said werewolf just because I initially thought that it was a werewolf in the trailer. It looks more like a jackal. Makes sense it would be a jackal since what the fuck is his name? What's the villain's name? The actor's name? I can't remember. I want to say it's Kevin Bacon, but I know that that's not true. But whenever I look at his face, I can't help but think, hey, that's Kevin Bacon. He's imbued by his own god, just like Mark is imbued with Khonshu. So seemingly that was a jackal that they summoned. But hey, who's to say that jackal wasn't transformed from like one of his followers or something? And it's also a nice reference to Werewolf by Night issue, whatever, that Moon Knight made his first appearance in. Which, if you haven't seen it yet, in the museum scene, there's a barcode on the wall, which if you scan leads you to a link on, like, I don't know, Marvel Unlimited or something for that issue of Werewolf by Night. And also we're getting Werewolf by Night as like a Marvel Halloween special. I hope it's live action. I would really like to see that be live action and not animated. Because then you have to deal with all the people who are like, oh, it's animated, it doesn't count. It's not actually in there. Just like they did with fucking What Is. People are like, oh, What Is isn't canon to... Or what is? What If? What If isn't canon to the MCU? It's animated. It's a TV show. I was like, what the fuck? I'm not even going to start, because I'm going to get pissed off. I want to finish this part off by saying, or by questioning, who the fuck is Steven calling? Steven is constantly calling his mother in this show, in this episode and is leaving her messages. Who is he calling? He's not a real person. He doesn't have a mother. She's not real. So whose number does he keep calling? Did Mark set up like a burner phone that he just left somewhere that he's like saved into Steven's phone as his mom's? Who does he keep contacting? Who is accepting these messages? Who's listening to these? Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited to see where the show goes. Apparently Mr. Knight is going to take place, or is going to appear in the second episode. That's cool. If you're unaware of how the Moon Knight personality thing works, originally he didn't have DID. He was Mark Spector, who operated under the alter ego and aliases of Jake Lockley and Stephen Grant. But over the course of time, writers were like, oh, he has multiple personality disorder. And when you go back and reread those original runs by like Doug Mensch, it makes it far more interesting to see, because, you know, at the time they didn't think about that. It was just alter egos. But when you go back and reread it as multiple personalities, it really enhances the story. Especially the fact that Marlene is a seemingly terrible person for never accepting the fact that Mark has multiple personality disorder. She seems to think that Steven is the only one that's there. So she always refers to him as Steven. But I'm trying to situate myself. The way that I understand the Moon Knight personality hierarchy of working is that overarching is the Moon Knight personality. Oh, sorry. It's the Moon Knight personality takes up the biggest thing. He is Moon Knight. Slightly smaller is, I guess, Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight is basically Moon Knight, but sort of closer to, I don't know, Batman, I guess. He's more logical and intense, and he works alongside like police officers and shit, and you know, stuff like that. He has all the gadgetry and rides around in a car. So it's Moon Knight, the sub-personality, Mr. Knight, and then Mark Spector is like the inside. Mark Spector, inside of that, is Jake Lockley and Stephen Grant. So even when Stephen Grant or Jake Lockley take over, at least in the comics, they're all of these personalities, even though they're different, are all working towards the same Moon Knight related goals. Like, Moon Knight is the one constant among all these personalities, so they all follow along with that, you know, for the most part. That's how I've always understood him to work. I don't know if they've ever really delved into that. If they have, let me know in the comments, or let me know how you think Moon Knight works. I saw this fucking terrible headline article from, I think, Nerdist, saying, what if Moon Knight's personalities were the alternate reality versions of Mark actually entering his head? It's just, oh god, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. No. I didn't even bother reading the article, I know. Yeah, I'm not even gonna bother with that. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the Moon Knight episode in the comments. Did you like it? I did. I thought that car chase scene looked weird, though. It looks like there's a car crash in, I can't remember what episode. Oh, I remember the episode. I don't remember what season. It's in the episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Being Frank. It's from the first-person perspective of Danny DeVito's character, Frank Reynolds, and like what his day-to-day life is like. And there's a scene where he's driving, and he's just flying down the street, not even stopping at stop signs, and these two people crash behind him because of it. And the crash is so clearly CGI cars, but there's just something about it that makes it real fun. Like, it's clearly fake, but it doesn't ruin the enjoyment of it. And Danny, or Frank, looks in the rearview mirror and he's like, oh, those damn Asians. Because he's just a terrible racist person. But that crash, it looks like the crash that's in Moon Knight. You know the one. But yeah, people bitching about that. I don't mind it. It adds like an elevated, heightened reality. Similar films I can think of that I like having that effect. It's like it's a Great Gatsby, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's for the most part, it's like a fairly realistic movie, but there's these like sort of whimsically fake looking settings that happen in it, and it's just this heightened sense of reality that just adds a charm to it. It makes it feel less polished and clean. It makes it interesting. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Moon Knight. Let's finally turn our heads and crook our necks so we can suck the blood. Morbius. I went and saw Morbius on opening day with my buddy. We thought it was going to be terrible. It's like we figured it was going to be like a car crash. Like, it's terrible, but you can't stop looking at it and you really want to know what happens. So we went and saw it. And oh my god, it is a terrible movie. Terrible movie. It's by the shitty writers of that Egyptian Gods of Egypt movie and Dracula Untold. It's by those two fucking guys who can't write a good movie to save their lives. It's by the director of Life, which I did bring up, weirdly enough, last episode when I was talking about Venom. That is a good movie. I don't think this director, aside from some parts of the film, he does a good job. But you could just feel that this movie has been chopped up over and over again. It simultaneously was too long and also too little going on in this movie. It's fucking ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous when you realize that they decided to make a Morbius Discord server. Wow, that Discord server is something else, people. It is insane. Holy shit, don't go in there. It's nothing crazy. It's actually moderated, which makes me wonder how these moderators and admins for this Morbius Discord server were hired. Like, are they just social media managers? I tried asking them, but they never responded to me. Yeah, Morbius... Oh my god, it is a terrible movie, but I loved it. Well, I won't say I loved it. I had a great time with it. I was laughing the whole way through the film, probably much to the chagrin of the other people in the audience. But goddamn, that was a fun movie to watch. I had a far greater time watching Morbius than I thought I would. There's so many unintentionally hilarious and just downright funny moments in this movie. I think I might buy it on Blu-ray just to have. It would have been even better if I was high, which I wasn't. I was stone cold sober when I saw this movie, and it was a blast. Story makes little sense. It's ridiculous. Matt Smith's character is the villain who has no motivation because, like I said earlier, it's such a chopped up movie. There's so much going on, but at the same time, it's saying so little. It's so clearly been reworked over and over again by, like, fucking executives, I guess, or the director, or whoever. Sony... Oh my god, I'm trying to figure out how to read this stuff off. I'm gonna wait. Well, who cares? I'll start with the post-credits scenes. So, yeah, this is the last topic of the video, so skip ahead a little bit if you don't want the spoilers, or just keep listening, or just skip ahead to the outro and hear what I have to say there. Or just mute the video and leave it on your tab if you're watching it on desktop or something on YouTube, and just let it play until the end. It helps my views or something. It helps people find the video or whatever. I don't know how it works. Okay. Here's what you want to know. After credit scenes. During credit scenes, actually, because they were smart enough to realize that after seeing that shitty movie that is Morbius, which I would give a 5 out of 10, people wouldn't want to sit through the credits, even though a couple people did. The credit scenes happen, there's credits, and then the scene. And the first scene is of a prison. The first scene it begins with the skyline of New York, and the fucking riffs from No Way Home appear in the sky. And then, in a prison, in an empty cell, Adrian Toomes materializes and he's like looking around. He's like, what the fuck? And he's like touching his body and looks in a mirror. And he's like, huh, hope the food's better in this joint. Why does he just realize that he's like in a different place? How does... If I was like that, I'd be like, what the fuck is happening to me? Like, in that first movie, he's just like a blue-collar sort of crime guy who has a flying suit. He's not fucking around with like teleportation and shit, but he just so casually comes to terms with the fact that he's in another universe or something. And then it cuts to newsreel footage of a news reporter. And it's like, mysterious person, Adrian Toomes, appeared in our world. He doesn't exist here. Where did he come from? Where is he going? Freed from prison because he wasn't imprisoned here. Who is Adrian Toomes? Stuff like that. And my favorite part about this is that the scenes showing Adrian Toomes being escorted out of prison are clearly part of the scene from the trailer where Morbius is being arrested and escorted into the prison, and Adrian Toomes is also there, and he's like, hey, Doc, what's up? But they took those scenes of Toomes alone, and they, like, zoomed them in. They zoomed the camera in. It seems so clear that in post-production, in just the editing software, they just zoomed in. They just zoomed it right in on him and focused it on him, because the camera movements are natural with how close it is compared to himself walking, and like the resolution is sort of lower, it looks like, for some reason, although that may just be because it's like supposed to be a television camera or whatever. But they took that scene that never happens in the movie for some reason, and they just put it at that end credits sequence. And then there more credits play. And then it's Morbius driving in the middle of the fucking desert to this waypoint in his GPS, and he gets out, and fucking Adrian Toomes in his goddamn vulture suit flies out through the desert and meets Morbius. It is the exact same suit as from No Way Home. He has somehow recreated it perfectly, immaculately recreated. Maybe it got teleported along with him for some reason. Maybe he found this version of the Tinkerer. But that doesn't make sense because they used Chitauri fucking equipment to make it. Who cares? I doubt we're going to see it again. If he does come back in another movie, it's not going to be that suit, I guarantee you that. Might have a similar helmet and a fur coat, but it's going to be completely remodeled. It's just the exact same asset. Never takes his helmet off. It's just Michael Keaton's voice coming out. He's like, hey, I'm not from here. I think Spider-Man's the reason I'm here. You want to team up with me and fight Spider-Man? And Morbius is like, And Michael Keaton's like, yeah, I bet a bunch of us grouping up together could do some good. And Morbius just is like a gape with his mouth. He's like, and then it cuts to more credits, and that's it. That's the fucking scenes with the Vulture, and it makes no goddamn sense. It's ridiculous. It's Sony just being a blight. They so clearly want a Sinister Six, but the MCU already did it. They just did it in No Way Home. And I know you can say, oh, it's not actually the Sinister Six, because this and that. Motherfucker, it is clearly the Sinister Six. I'm pretty sure there's 6 of them. Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, Lizard, Sandman. There's 5. 6, J. Jonah Jameson. That's the Sinister Six, more or less. Fucking, that's them. What Sony should just do is forget that. And just do, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but what I think they should do, and what they might be doing, is leading to a sort of Midnight Suns-esque group with Venom, Morbius, and Kraven. Midnight Suns was a group of it's different people, but for the most part, it seems to be Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, Werewolf by Night, maybe Wolverine here and there, Morbius. Like it's like Justice League Dark or something. It's like the darker characters, and they do weird stories. They should just do that, but with Morbius, Kraven, and Venom. Fuck Vulture, leave him alone. He's not in the MCU. Now we'll never see him again. Maybe we'll see Scorpion in the next good Spider-Man movie. But, goddamn, they need to just stop. They need to slow down like they slowed down scenes in this movie at random. If you haven't seen it, they just slow-mo random scenes. It's like goddamn Zack Snyder's Justice League. But worse, because these scenes make even less sense than those scenes. And they don't look half as good. They, for some reason, slow-mo a chase scene. And, you know, that could be cool. That could be interesting. It's a chase scene between Vampire Morbius and Vampire Matt Smith. And they're running through a subway. You know, not the restaurant, but the actual subway itself. You know, a very interesting scenic location. There's so much stuff to look at a subway. There's so many interesting things to play with in a subway. They're running and they're chasing. And Morbius is chasing Matt Smith. And the fucking thing they decide to slow-mo on in this scene is when they are sliding down that median in the escalators that everybody slides down in a chase scene in a subway. You know the one. There's people going down. There's people coming up. They all turn and look as the character slides down the middle. They slow-mo Matt Smith and Jared Leto sliding down that slow motion. That's it. They're not fighting. They're kind of have their hands up ready for him, but they're just sliding down it. But here's the interesting thing, is that they're sliding down on their feet. They're standing up as they do it. So isn't that cool? Oh God, this movie is so dumb. The logo for Morbius is purplish pink for some reason. It's like a magenta. Why? Nothing else that they've in their advertising has been that color. It's sort of like the same color as like Morbius's inner robe or like inner cape. I don't know why they did that. I don't think that the CGI is as bad as people were saying it is. I liked the weird smoky effect. That was cool to see. And I do think that Morbius did look really great when he was his gross vampire Morbius version rather than Jared Leto. The only problem I have with the CGI is the chase and flight and running scenes. Morbius can fly. In the comics, it's like telepathy or some shit. In this, he can just fly. And he has the smoke and shit. But every time he flies, he's always flying in someplace dark or at night. And you can't see a goddamn thing on the fucking screen. It's just blurry imagery going by you. So many times I was like playing goddamn I Spy with myself, trying to find Morbius in this goddamn scenes. It's the same when he's, like I said, during the chases or when he's running. You can't see what the fuck is happening. He defeats Matt Smith by making a giant fist of bats. You see, Matt Smith and Morbius are best friends. Matt Smith's character's name is Lucian. But for some reason, in the intro of the film, when we get a flashback to when Morbius and Lucian were kids, and they're like at this some like British hospital for kids with like fucking health issues or something because they have a blood disease. This shitty little kid named Michael Morbius just starts calling Lucian Milo. And he's called Milo the whole fucking movie. This pisses me off so goddamn much because it's so stupid, and I just feel like the writers were like, oh, this is a clever little character tick. Oh. He calls him Milo because there was when Morbius first got there. Morbius has been there for years or something, and there's this the bed next to his was this kid named Milo. Milo died, so every kid afterward he calls Milo. Why? For some fucking reason he does that. So he starts calling Lucian Milo, and then everybody calls him Milo. His fucking doctor calls him Milo. Lucian, after Michael... Oh my god. Michael gets, like... the doctor sees Michael's, like, abilities to fix stuff when he saves Lucian from dying. And it's like the blood machine that, filters the blood or whatever. It breaks down. So Michael opens up a pen and gets the spring from inside the pen and replaces it with something on like a battery or something on the inside of the machine. And then the doctor's like, oh my god, it took 60,000 men to make that machine, and none of them could repair it, but you repaired it with but a pen. You're a genius. You're going to America again. Because he's the only American in this fucking school full of British people. And so Michael moves away to America to go to oh my god, I forgot. It's a school. The doctor is in his office telling Michael that he's referred him to the school for gifted children in upstate New York. So now, Sony is not just trying to steal from the MCU, Sony is trying to steal from the X-Men movies. So Michael just gets transferred to the school. He leaves this letter behind for Lucian, who he continues to call Milo. And the letter blows away out of the fucking window, because why not? Lucian goes down to try and get it. He gets caught by these bullies who are reading the letter, and they're like, haha, gay, whatever. And they start bullying him and hitting him. And Lucian hits him with a fucking his cane. And they start beating him. And the doctor is coming with like a bag of groceries. He's heading back to the hospital, whatever. It's like a boarding school for sick kids. And he's like, hey, get off of me! He stops the fight. And the doctor runs over to this kid who's just getting his ass kicked by these 3 bullies who are bigger than him. And he's like, Milo, are you okay? He doesn't call him by his real name. He calls him Milo. It's... This caretaker who acts as an adoptive father to the guy, he doesn't even call him by his real goddamn name at all. Oh my god. So eventually Milo, god, now I'm doing it. He fucking shit happens, and then they're adults, and he takes the Morbius juice, and he's healed. He's spick and span, and Matt Smith is like the only person who realized that he's in a shitty B-movie comedy about a vampire man, because he's chewing scenery, he's going all out. He does like this whole like little dance number and jig in his apartment after he gets revitalized, and for some reason he always wears a suit and sneakers, which is a really weird combination. And oh my god, he becomes evil for some reason. He just goes straight to evil. He's like, oh, I'm finally a good person, or like I can finally be a normal person now. I'm gonna fuck them up. I'm gonna fuck all those people up for years of torment, even though like I could never do this stuff because I had Morbius disease. But I'm gonna fuck those people up for all the years that I couldn't fuck them up. And so he just starts going around and he becomes a serial killer. He starts eating these people and drinking their blood, and people think, like, the cops are like, oh, it's Morbius. So they're hunting down Michael Morbius, and they think he's a killer, until they realize that there's 2 of them. And that never comes into play, because the police never come into contact with either of them. God damn, this is such a shitty, dumb movie. Holy shit. There's Tyrese Gibson, and I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff before. They play FBI detectives who are on the case of Morbius. Tyrese Gibson's character has a robot arm that we only see in the trailers and once in the fucking movie. And it's at the very end of the film, after Morbius and Matt Smith have a giant underground battle, in which Morbius defeats Matt Smith by calling thousands and thousands of bats to him. And he turns the bats into a giant fist and uses them to attack Morbius. It's not like they take the form of a fist. It's more like he's like an earthbender or like a windbender from Avatar, but with bats. Like he aims his hand and all the bats swarm at him and just form a big thing that attacks him and hits him into a wall. But they get underground by going straight through the earth. So there's a giant hole in the street that the police show up to, and the FBI guys are there. And the FBI Tyrese guy, Stroud I think his name is, takes off his coat. You see his robot arm from a distance. They look down the hole, bats fly out, they get scared, back up, oh my gosh, it's bats. That's the end. That's all we see of his fucking robot arm. Oh, God, I don't even remember what I was talking about before then. Just this fucking movie. Oh yeah, speaking of fucking movie, this is a PG-13 movie. PG-13 movies can use one fuck. The use of fuck in this movie is not by a main character. It is by a character we only see in 2 scenes. There is a money counterfeiting operation going on in this movie. And the money that they print out looks like goddamn Monopoly money. Because it's like really bright green and it just looks so dumb and bad. Morbius decides to follow these guys home after stealing blood from these fucking paramedics for some reason. It makes no goddamn fucking sense. So he follows these counterfeiters back to their underground, like, ballroom, abandoned shopping center lair. And, like, they have all these machines set up and it's just these 3 dudes running this whole thing. It's the scene from the trailer where he's like, I'm Venom. No, actually, it's Michael Morbius. Hey, nice to help you. That scene, that joke isn't in the movie. It's just for the trailer. Maybe it was going to be in the movie, but Sony decided, fuck that, it's dumb. Who cares? But when Morbius is fucking up that guy's hand, the 2 guys who he followed there run away. And one of them says, holy fuck! Off screen. The only time they get to use the word fuck, and they use it, you can barely hear it. If you're chewing popcorn too loudly, you want to be able to hear it. He says, oh fuck, or it's more like, oh fuck, like that, as they run away. Oh, it's just so bad. And the Daily Bugle is in this movie as well. I'm just going down by my notes. The Daily Bugle. Sony, for whatever reason, doesn't want to take the time to design their own version of the Daily Bugle, so they just use the Sam Raimi version. It's the same version that was in Venom. It's the same version in this movie. I hate myself for doing it. I didn't wear my eyeglasses, so I couldn't see it very well, but I did see one thing. I was thinking about going through and watching a cam rip version just so I could talk about it, but I figured people are already talking about it, and I just didn't feel like doing that. But what I saw in one issue of the Daily Bugle, they showed 2 different copies of a paper. They zoom in on both of them. I made out one word on like a top corner headline. And it was something, chameleons. Not chameleons plural, like multiple lizards, but chameleon, capitalized, apostrophed, like it's someone's name. There's a reference to the goddamn chameleon in this movie, which means a chameleon's gonna be in Craven, because they're like stepbrothers or something. Oh, there's just a lot of unneeded scenes and unneeded things in this movie. There's a goddamn almost shot-for-shot Batman Begins scene in this movie. You know, the one, it's, when Bruce is an adult and he's in the cave and all the bats are flying around him and he's just standing stoically as the bats swarm around him. They do that almost exactly in this fucking movie, and I lost my goddamn mind laughing. My friend and I were having a hell of a time laughing and, like, whispering jokes back and forth to one another. Oh, man, it was a great time. The movie ends. It just ends. The climax is terrible. I was like, okay, so Matt Smith kidnapped Morbius's kind of girlfriend and killed her. Okay, that's interesting. And then he flew away. So Morbius is going to go back and he's going to drink some more blood and then he's going to track Matt Smith's character down. No, it's all one long sequence. Matt Smith abducts the girl. Matt Smith brings her to a rooftop that has like a dance floor or like a helicopter landing pad made of lights on it. He kills her. They fight a little bit. They fight a little bit in a construction site. Matt Smith gets away. I thought that would be it. No, it continues. Morbius hunts down Matt Smith. They go underground. They continue fighting in this underground giant chasm that's under construction. They fight for a little bit. Morbius uses his dumb bat radar to see where Matt Smith is, even though he's clearly right in front of him, running at him. Morbius calls the bats. The bats swarm. The bats attack Lucian, Milo, Matt Smith. Fucking then, here's how the villain of this film dies. Morbius gets out a giant syringe, stabs it into him. The syringe is filled with this serum that is made to kill him. Specifically made to kill him. I think he had 2 of them, but I think one of them was destroyed because he was going to use one on Matt Smith and one on himself. But that doesn't happen. And then, yeah, he just dies like that. They have a dumb fight underground in the dark, just like Venom. You can't see what's happening. And then he dies. He gets killed. He just fucking kills down there. He dies. Oh my god. I just remembered how funny Matt Smith looks like, because, you know, when they venom out, when they vampire out, they have like the gross vampire monster face. Matt Smith has that, not to the extent of Morbius with like the protruding cheekbones and like, for some reason when they become vampires, their cheeks like suck in like that. When that happens for some reason, I guess their mouth just becomes a vacuum to suck blood. Matt Smith, he has like the pointy ears and like sort of a vampire face, but it's clearly just Matt Smith in vampire makeup, and it looks so goddamn funny. I love this movie. I'll say it. I'll come out of the Morbius closet. I love this movie. It is so fun and dumb. I enjoyed it more than I did Venom and Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Especially more than Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Oh my god, that's a bad movie. Oh, man. It is something else, this fucking shitty movie. It is a testament to Sony's hubris into thinking they could do this, and it's a testament into Sony also not thinking. It's simultaneously a testament to Sony's hubris, while also being a testament to Sony not believing in themselves enough to make this movie, so they keep going back and making changes. Oh, man. Check it out, I guess. Don't watch... I don't know. I would say you shouldn't pirate it, not for the obvious reasons, but I think that pirating this movie will lessen the effect of it. I think that this is something that you have to see before you with your own eyes. And that is why I think you should just wait until it comes out on home release and pirate it then when it's on high resolution. Or, you know, just wait until it comes on Blu-ray or DVD, or go see it in the theater if you want to. There's a surprising amount of people in my showing. I didn't think there would be, because we went and saw it on Friday at like 3 p.m. So I was like, oh, kids will still be in school, people will be at work. There's a lot of people in that goddamn showing. I don't know why. Don't know why. Nobody else laughed as much as me and my friend did, that's for sure. Oh, man. Morbius. Morbius. I hope they make a sequel. That's all I have to say about Morbius. This episode is getting close to 2 hours. This is almost an hour and 40 minutes. So I'm going to conclude it there. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, check out Destructo Boy, The Era of Alpha Cardinal, Part 1. Destructo Boy, number 1. Number 1 out of 5. It's on Etsy. It's $9.99 plus shipping and handling. So like I said, if that totals out to too much if you're not in America, I do have a digital version available for $5. So it's a lesser price for the PDF. It's I had to split it up into 13 pages each into 2 different PDF files, because putting this all on Etsy got mad at me and wouldn't let me. It was too high of a file. It was too much good work. It was too much great art at a high resolution for Etsy to comprehend. So I had to split it up into 2 files, but you'll get both of those if you buy the digital copy. Check that out, on sale now. Follow me on Instagram at NotBlackWild and at Smokey's Videos. If you're listening to this, follow me on YouTube at Smokey's Videos, where I cover comic books, movies, and pop culture, and whatever else. Let me know what you thought of Morbius. Are you a Morbhead? I am. And yeah, I will. I can't think of what my topic is for next week. I guess more Moon Knight, more Nocenti's Daredevil, because that's sort of what I'm doing now. So yeah, catch me again, same time, same place next week for another episode of the Comic Schtick Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Bye.